We are once again talking about this Victor Wembanyama Black Prizm 1/1 rookie card, the one we spoke about a few days ago, because it looks like the owners of the card, the guys that pulled the card, the guys that graded the card with PSA have come out and said they used Kurt's Card Care on the card itself, which might raise some questions around whether or not the card remains certified by PSA. And it's a really interesting one to unpack because there are a lot of talking points here, and there's some things I want to break down that you guys might be a bit surprised to hear come from me. Now, like I said, we touched on this Black Prizm because we spoke the other day how the card was slightly off-centered and how people, had this mindset to sort of ignore visible damage on a card when it has a PSA 10 because they know they can maximize the amount of money they're getting, and how sort of idiotic that mindset is. And I think that same mindset is going to flow into what we're about to show you because it has to do with what these guys said. Now, I'm going to play the video for you, and then I'm going to share my thoughts in a sec.
Holy.
Oh, man. Okay.
Oh, sit down. Oh, my goodness, bro. Hey, real quick, though, I want to give a huge shout out to Kurt's Card Care. Kurt, if you're watching this, your product is phenomenal. I lost the words right now.
So these guys basically come out and praise Kurt's Card Care in PSA's office, right? Which I thought was pretty wild. I'm surprised that PSA didn't do anything. I'll get to my thoughts on that in a sec. But the one thing I will say very quickly that you guys might be surprised to hear is I'm thankful that these idiots did this because, like I've said every single time we've spoken about Kurt's Card Care, I don't care what you do. You can do whatever you want to your card. Just tell me before you sell it. And in this case, they've done that. Now, is that a Freudian slip? Is that him getting caught up in the emotion and saying the quiet part out loud? Possibly, but at least he's done it. So I'm really curious to see whether this actually impacts the price or not. Now, like I mentioned with the video from the other day, when it came to that off-centering for the card, we spoke about how, that mindset is there of people just being dumb and buying the label. So are people going to do that in this one particular instance? They're going to ignore the fact that we don't know what was done to this card. We don't know what Kurt did. We don't know if he trimmed it. We don't know if he used his edge rolling or anything like that. We don't know if he added anything. It could have just been his polish. It could have just been a wipe down. We don't know. But the fact that we don't know, is that going to be something that pushes the price of this card down? I don't know. I think, again, people are idiots. And I think in this instance, they might still ignore the elephant in the room kind of thing. But at least, like I said, these guys came out and said, yes, we use this. Now, that's sort of all I've asked for. And I'd be curious to see whether it's being done on other cards. But, the other thing to keep front of mind too, how many other cards are these guys using that stuff on? They need to come out and say that too as well. But, the thing I want to quickly mention about PSA is I'm curious whether or not this is actually going to mean their card gets decertified, because Nat Turner has come out, in the past on the record and basically said that this stuff goes against, PSA's policy. And one of the big issues for them is not always being able to tell when this stuff is being used, which is a huge problem for them as a grader in the first place. But given that you've got these guys literally in their head office saying they did this to the card, is that going to be sufficient for PSA to say, you know what, we're going to decertify this and completely, have these guys shit the bed, shoot themselves in the foot, whatever it is you want to say, ruin the deal of a lifetime because they were trying to be honest or just said accidentally the quiet part out loud? But to give you some context on, some of the things that Nat has said in the past, we've actually referenced these DMs. I believe this was from Tiffany Cards to Nat Turner, where the guy from Tiffany Cards is basically asking Nat some questions about whether cleaning, polishing tools are fine to use on the cards. He says he wouldn't recommend it. If you then go into the other post, he basically says, no, anything being added to a card is against the rules, including polish, which, in the bare minimum is what people are using Kurt's Card Care for. And that's also what they say, when they talk about why Kurt's Card Care is okay, because they'll say it's just a bit of polish. It's not the big deal. We're not adding paint. We're not doing anything like that. It's just polish. Well, you've got clearly here a response from that saying polish is not okay. It goes against their rules. You can wipe your card with a towel, but that's it. So given we now know what we know, does that mean that this card is going to get decertified? Is there going to be enough public pressure on PSA to do that? Or is PSA going to come out and say, well, actually, yes, that's, the mindset we used to take, but today we think polish is fine. Is this going to be the can of worms? Is this going to be Pandora's box opening for them because they want to try and save some face? Because at the end of the day, it's really bloody embarrassing to have, a person picking up a card from your head office saying they use this thing on a card, which is apparently against your rules, against your terms and conditions. Pretty, wild if you ask me. I will go back to the point of these guys, being transparent, but, I don't think it's them being transparent. I saw one of the tweets there. Basically, someone said they're not being honest, they're bragging, which I think is what it is as well. And I think that goes, to the mindset of where the hobby is today. This is a clear-cut example, the best, best showcase for why you should be very careful in our hobby today. Because if you've got people that are actively going out there and doing this kind of stuff and they're not shying away from it, and it's becoming, so pervasive, and whilst that might become the new norm and everybody, ends up getting comfortable with using crap like this, it's so pervasive that it should concern you that you've got things out there that have had stuff done to it. And I'm not trying to say that in order to scare you guys or to say, you guys have cards that are worthless and all that kind of stuff. I'm just trying to tell you my honest opinion. And it tells me there's a lot of crap out there that these guys have been doing for a long time. And when I say these guys, I don't mean NorCal sports cards. I mean the hobby in general. Because the fact that this is becoming, so open and honest, it's becoming so transparent, it's becoming, such a thing that people brag about, tells you it's a lot bigger than what we actually think. So, I'm really keen to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know whether you'd still be okay owning this card, even though these guys have disclosed it. Yes, we've spoken about Kurt's card care a heck of a lot, and people have continually told me, I don't give a crap about that sort of stuff. Just tell me, or even if you don't tell me, I don't care. I'm curious to see whether or not you guys change your mind, maybe based on this specific situation, or whether actually, more importantly, you think the price is going to be impacted by the guy coming out and saying this. I don't think it will be. I don't think the price is going to be impacted at all, specifically for the things that we spoke about in the video the other day. People just care about the label these days. The card could be trimmed. You could have had somebody come out and say it's trimmed, and I think overnight people are going to forget, kind of thing, right? The hobby has a short memory, and people, specifically, want things for pride of ownership these days. And this card is one of those things that could be pride of ownership, right? They basically want to have Victor's best rookie card, so they're going to ignore the fact that it had work done to it. Now, I think my opinion on that will probably change if PSA come out and decertify it. I would urge and encourage PSA to decertify it, especially if they want to take this stuff seriously, but I don't think they will. I think they're going to come out off the back of this and use this as an opportunity to say Kurt's card care is okay. And I think, in 12 months' time, I don't think I've highlighted this before, but I would not be shocked if, Kurt's card care becomes an official supplier for PSA. Maybe not the edge rolling, maybe not, the soaking the cards and all that kind of stuff, maybe just the polish, but I would not be shocked if this becomes BAU and maybe even PSA offer it as a standard service like we see with comic books. Now, I've also talked about that in the past too, and I think Neo Cards and Comics, has pushed back on me a little bit because he knows that I am a comic book collector, and he's asked in the past, well, you're okay with this stuff happening for comics because you can clean comics, you can press comics, but you're not for cards. There's a key distinction to be made there. Right now, comic books allow that sort of stuff. They didn't in the past. Card graders don't allow this stuff right now. So the fact that it's happening is not okay. And to set the record straight, I don't like pressing and I don't like cleaning for comics. I like the sort of art of the deal, if that makes sense, for finding a book or a card that's in pristine condition, because that just gives more value to me. And from my own perspective, I think when you're looking at vintage stuff, when you're looking at rookie cards from like the 40s, 50s, and 60s, finding one in pristine condition from back then that stood the test of time holds a lot more value and respect for me to collect. And the same thing goes when it comes to, Golden Age and Silver Age comics. The same thing doesn't really apply for modern cards, in my opinion, because people just don't care. They're overprinted to death. Everything is graded. People are working on their cards, and it's just a bit of a shit show. So I'm rambling like I always do. In summary, I want to give these guys some credit, even though I don't think they did it intentionally, telling us they use Kurt's card care, but let's sort of wait and see what happens next, because I would be a bit of a hypocrite if I grilled these guys for saying it, considering everything I've spoken about when I've talked about card cleaning and altering for the last 2 years is bloody tell me when you do it. So they've done that. They deserve some credit, but I'm keen to hear what you guys have to say. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.